URL in the chat. And I guess we can just chat for a little bit. So Manny, how have you been this morning?
I have been good. Yeah, pumped about this chat, and there's so much to share with folks. I've been obsessed with this new feature, agents and automations this past week, so eager to share what I've been building.
Amazing. Yeah, and so if you're just joining us, this is going to be the Agent 3 live stream. We're getting set up here, about to kick it off. We're just making sure all systems are go, and then we're going to jump into some building. But it looks like we're live on X, we're live on YouTube, and we are live on LinkedIn. So we're going to talk about kind of Agent 3 recap. We have our guest Manny, who's joining us from. All right, Manny, you're in Chicago, right?
That's right. Yep.
So we're live on the Francisco and I are live on the West Coast from the Replit offices. Manny is live from Chicago. How's the weather out there in Chicago these days?
It's really nice. It's been a really nice summer going into fall. So yeah, eager to get out there, go for a walk, play a little basketball.
The Windy City, as they call it, right? So hopefully not too cold just yet.
Right. Yeah. We know what's coming though.
Yeah, I mean, so everybody I talk to, like literally everyone is like, "Oh, you got to go to Chicago in the summer. Like that's just the place to be." So I haven't done it yet, but I hear such great things. Cool. And looks like we got our live stream chat coming in from Paris in the UK. Man, we're international. Um, oh, I see. Luma page is going live. So welcome, welcome. Yes.
Awesome. Hey everyone, great to see y'all. And yeah, thanks again, Manny, for jumping in. Really appreciate you, taking the time to kind of build something out here with us together today. It's been cool to kind of see all your side projects coming together. I am still very interested in checking out your, I don't know how you, like, I guess like user research flow that you have. Something we'll talk about another time, but it's been pretty impressive just to see like having a call and then, being able to kind of just export all the, best nuggets of the call, depending on how you set it up, has been like absolutely mind blowing. I talked to a couple of different folks in the community side. They're like, I need this for like every community call I ever have, because it always starts with like a very casual, like, hey, how are you doing? This is great. Like, what are you working on? And they always come up with this like incredible system they're, building up or something. So it's been very, very cool to see.
Thank you. Yes. Looking forward to building that out a little bit more. There's a template out there that I made available, but want to add some more bells and whistles to that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where you have all these conversations. There's so many great nuggets on those conversations, and they're not helpful in the moment. They're helpful like 3 months later when you're having another side conversation. You're like, what did that guy say? Or like, oh, help me remind that. And so it's great to have a tool that automatically mines all of that information, brings it in. You can have a chat with it, and helps you kind of get that information when you need it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to building it out a little bit more.
Yeah, it'll be cool to kind of see it, and something I like to share more likely with folks. Maybe another live stream could be kind of cool to share.
Sweet. Yeah, so today we're going to be covering kind of Agent 3. We're going to talk about what's new. We're going to talk about all the new features. And then more than that, we wanted to bring in Manny, who's one of our builders. And he's going to go over some things that he's built out using Agent 3. And I think that this is really fun because it shows just what's possible from the community and what we're seeing builders like yourselves create. So I'm really excited. I think Manny has some great apps to show off for us. Yeah, so... I think we're going to jump into it. And we're just going to go into what's new with Agent 3. So I'll spend some time walking through that, and then we can get to demos. We can start talking about something that Manny's built. Manny's going to kind of take the show from there. So from my end, I can kind of talk about Agent 3. I can talk about the new things that we've shipped. And so, Agent 3, what's new? But we can start with some intros, I guess, for those of you that don't know us. I'm Matt, developer relations, and I'm joined by Francisco and Manny. Francisco, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Francisco Cruz Mendoza. I'm the head of community here at Replit, and you may have seen me like I'm starting to kind of come out on Reddit and Discourse and just introducing myself around. But yeah, here to kind of support our many super users around the world. I'll pass it over to Manny.
Hey everybody, Manny Bernabe here, and I call myself a Vibe builder and a huge fan of Replit. I spend a lot of my time building out applications or vibe coding applications, and I love sharing what I learn with folks, with content, video templates, things like that. So pumped to be here, pumped to be joining the one and only Matt, and awesome new addition to the Replit team, Francisco, and pumped to be talking about agents and automations.
Yeah, amazing. And for those folks just joining, Manny is like one of the all-time great community members and contributors. Loved all the content he sent over in the past months and years. So I'm gonna give a quick overview of what's new in Agent 3, and then I'm gonna hand it off to Manny, and he's gonna start talking through what he's built. So what is new? What are we working with here? So what's new? We're gonna go through Manny's amazing apps, and then we'll talk about some tips and tricks, maybe making the most of Replit. What's new? Well, three main things. There's a longer runtime. Agent can now test and make sure that your apps work on its own, and that means not just clicking around, but like actually spinning up its own kind of Chrome instance, its own browser, and going through those things. And then finally, agent generation, which Manny's going to talk about a bit today. Agent can build agents. It's a bit complicated. Manny has a really great explanation he'll give for you all. So first, longer run times. Agent runs for like 3 hours if you let it, if you enable max autonomy. That means you can build out full kind of complete applications. In our live stream last week, I built out this plant identification app. You can check that out to learn more. Self-testing. So here's a screenshot of Agent like clicking around within an application using that self-testing ability. Agent can debug your apps. That means it just saves you time. So something Francisco asked last week is like, hey, why do we want to run for longer periods of time? Isn't shorter better? Well, as it would turn out, these runs are making quick edits. It's running quickly, but it just automates some of the hard stuff, some of the more manual testing and debugging. Then finally, agents and automations. So, for example, you could create an agent here that sends you an email with a list of things to do in San Francisco every Thursday. So, agent can build agents. That's really cool. And so, with that, we have some other tools to help you succeed as well. So, you can bring your favorite applications and connect your favorite tools in a single click. You can build more beautiful applications with our theme park, our theme selector. And you can now build anything. Agent runs in any application. So you can use any app or framework. And so now we're going to kick it off to Manny. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And Manny's going to get into a few apps that he's built out using Agent 3. But it looks like we got some folks joining from Guadalupe, India. Man, this is Pakistan. Man, we got a lot of people joining the stream. This is awesome.
Cool. Well, welcome everybody again. Manny here, and I want to show you two builds that I made this past week with the new agents and automation capabilities that ship with Agent 3. Okay, so the first one is this automation that helps us keep on top of all of the great AI news and innovations and research that's coming out. So Archive is a popular database for academic papers. And this is where you'll find a lot of the latest and greatest research papers on AI. Now, the problem is that there are a lot of them that get published every day. So here, if I see the papers that have been published just today, you'll see that you have 130 academic papers that have been published today just on AI alone. So if you're trying to stay on top of things, it's going to be really, really tough. But thankfully, we got AI that can help with this. So this is my daily archive recap. And it's an automation that will take the top 25 papers that are in the AI category on the archive database, will pull them and put together a really nice newsletter of sorts for me to help me digest all of this information. And so you can see here, it's kind of got this nice fresh style, like today's fresh batch of research papers is bursting with groundbreaking ideas set to change the game across different fields. Nice little intro, some insights, and then there are different themes that have been picked up across those 25 different papers. So here we have geometric and visual reasoning. Okay, what is that about? And then I have papers for each one of those themes. So here is a paper, and then here's like a nice sort of layman's explanation for this particular paper. And so what I think is nice about this is that, one, it's convenient. So I'm going to get this in my inbox every morning. 2, it's customized. It's specifically looking at the AI category on the archive database. And 3, it's also sort of in the in the tone that I want, in the style that I want, which is a little bit more casual. Like I don't have a PhD in statistics or mathematics. I really need something to kind of dumb this down for me, so I can really appreciate it. And so this is the first automation that I wanted to walk you through. Okay, so if you go to Replit, the main landing page, the way you kick this off is you head over to the new agents and automations build type here on the right hand side, and you might drop in a prompt like this. You want an automation that scrapes the archive academic research database, pulls the top 25, and then creates a nice newsletter summarizing all of that information. And then you'll hit start and kick that off. And so let me walk you through that actual build. Okay, so after spend some time building that out, you're going to land on this build of your automation. And what you're seeing here is a workflow. So this is being triggered by by time of day. For me, it's in the morning. It's fetching the papers from the archive database. It's summarizing the different steps, and then it's sending me in email. And this is as we look at the different types of building blocks in the agentic framework that Replit is making available for us, this is what's known as a workflow. So a little bit more context here. When I think about a workflow, I think about different nodes that are being put together to come up with a consistent output. And so these nodes, some of them might need some AI, some of them might be infused by AI, but it's not not necessarily the case that all the nodes need them. You might just want them in one of the particular nodes. And so if we go back to our build, you'll see that really the only part of this node that needs AI is the summarized paper step. And so what we're doing is we're taking the context from the different papers, we're feeding it to OpenAI, and we're having OpenAI give us a summary of the papers, give us the themes, and give us the newsletter. And then it's outputting us and sending us that email. The neat thing about leveraging the Mastra framework here in Replit is that Mastra has this really nice developer playground that you can click into, and you get a little bit more visibility in terms of what's going on in this particular automation. So if I click here on workflows, let me increase the size here. I'm going to see my AI research summary workflow. And you'll see those same types of nodes that you saw in the Replit playground. The cool thing about this is that you can see previous runs. So this is the run that I did earlier, and you can see what's happening in each one of the steps. And if you've built any type of agentic workflows, one of the toughest things is just making sure that you're debugging your different steps and that the different nodes are doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And this gives you a good amount of visibility here. So I can click into one of these steps. I can say, hey, what was the input here? Shows me that it scraped 25 papers and gave me the context for that. And then I can also see the output here. So here's where the intelligence was. I can look for the, say, themes and it'll show me that after this node is complete, then I have these themes and then I have the papers for that particular theme. Then that is going to output it to my send email summary step. And then that's when my email is getting sent out. And so this is, again, an example of a workflow. And this is one of the primitives in the Mastra agentic framework is a workflows is a series of steps and that that kind of leads you to a particular outcome. The other neat thing
actually,
here,
this is, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, Manny. Maybe you could break this down a little bit more for like what's actually going on here, right? So we're asking agent to build an agent. So like there's already, we're saying agent twice, and that agent is creating a workflow. And it sounds like your workflow has agents they're also using AI. So maybe you talk a little bit about like the structure of this app that we're building, and then we could get into like what Mastra is and what this workflow looks like.
yes. So if I go back to the overall structure, so here's my workflow. And these nodes can call an agent, do some work. So I can call an agent to summarize the papers, or I could just could just call a tool that will send that to OpenAI and give me the summaries as I want them to be emailed to me. So if I gonna go back to the playground and I look at the tool that's available here. This is my summarize paper tool. And so it will take an array of papers and then it will give me the summaries for those papers. And then it's going to be handed off to the next node. So yes, like the workflows themselves, they can call different agents and they can call different tools depending on what you want that node to do.
Very cool. So agents, right, is like AI that does stuff, taking a step back for our audience. And so you're building, like, OpenAI can't usually get your email or can't usually send you an email or summarize a paper. Well, it might be able to summarize a paper if you give it the right input, but we're giving these agents tools in the Mostra framework, which is a framework for building these type of autonomous agentic apps. And so in your case, right, you can call an agent that does something, or you can call a tool that's like a function. And so you're combining tools and agents to go and automate this task that you might have to do manually, and then, you know, send you an email. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Yep, that's right.
Cool. Very cool.
And so yeah, I think, you know, like very neat that you can break it out into different steps. Very neat that you can go into each one of the steps and see what's happening, and you can go into the tools. And as Matt mentioned, okay, so what if you want to leverage an agent in a different context? What if you want to give a workflow a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more autonomy? So I want to show you the second thing that I built, which is my own personal assistant called Alfred. Okay, so you know, no longer are assistants just for rich billionaires that are moonlighting as crime fighters. Now everybody can have their own assistant, and this is my own assistant here. And so let me just ping Alfred and say, "Hey, Alfred, are you available?" All right, I went through because of the mic, but hey, Alfie, you around? All right, and
Oh, wow,
a
you
little
get
emoji here.
the icon. That's advanced, man.
Yeah.
This is sick.
Yeah, because it's just so that I know that Alfie is available or Alfred is available. And then here is the response. Okay, cool. And like I can say like, hey, what can you help with? And it's, you know, this is the nice thing about agentic systems as well. Like I have a typo here. It's kind of casual, but Alfred knows what I'm referring to. And so Alfred
really
can do a
fast.
couple. Yeah, super fast. And so Alfred can help out with a couple of things. Number one is Alfred can get the news. I can say like, hey, can you get the top 3 headlines from Hacker News? And Alfred would go and fetch that. So Alfred can get the news. Alfred can create a task like, can you create a task to build a Hacker News automation? We'll get that. And so we should come back with a task. Okay, so here Alfred's like, yeah, I've got this task that's been created for you. Let me go check it out. And I can see here this task in my Notion database to go build a Hacker News automation. And so that's my assistant. And you know, the cool thing here is that, you know, I'm talking to my own personal assistant. It has access to my own personal Notion database. It has custom tooling about what I care about, Hacker News. I want to be able to get like a quick like update in terms of what's going on in Hacker News, and it's all via Slack. So I want to show you a little bit more about how this came together. So here is my Alfred build, and unfortunately, I have a little bit of a UI issue where I'm not able to see the agent interface here in Replit, but no worries because we can go to the Mostra playground. And so now here in agents, I have Alfred. which is that main agent that you saw me interacting with. So let me double click on that. And this is one of the really cool things about this developer playground, is that I can click into this agent and I see right away that Alfred has memory. That's why it was able to have that conversation in thread going back and forth. Alfred has access to certain tools. So I've specified each one of these tools, and Alfred knows that in the prompt that it has access to that. And then also Alfred has a personality and instructions that are detailed here in the prompt. And I can kind of test this a little bit too. So let me go back to that Hacker News prompt. So give me the top 3 news from Hacker News. And again, this is, the nice part about agentic systems is that you can just, you keep it casual. Okay, so you notice that as soon as Alfred saw that prompt, he called the tool. And you can see the input and the output from that tool. So I can see that the argument was 3, because if I go to the tools, I'll show you in a bit, it needs to know how many headlines it's looking for, and then it's returning that context to Alfred, and then Alfred is summarizing that for me and dropping it here in the text. And if I ask it to create a task like I did earlier, you'll see a similar thing. It's going to be calling the Notion task creation tool to do that. So the tools here, super handy. If I want to go here and inspect the Hacker News tool, I can do that and just say return to me the 3 most recent headlines, and it returns it. And why it's super helpful to do this is because, oftentimes when you're debugging an agentic system, you don't know where the problem is. Is the problem in the prompt? Is it problem in the tool? Is it in a workflow? And so the fact that I have this visibility so that I can confirm that the tool is doing what I expect it to do, super, super helpful to be able to do this. And so that's Alfred. The other neat thing here that you see is that that this has created a separate agent, which is the news analysis agent. And that is being pulled into this workflow here of Hacker News. So when this workflow is triggered, it's going to get to this node, and it's going to call that particular agent to help with this particular node. So you have agents that are leveraging other agents to do work in particular nodes of your overall workflow. And so, as you can imagine, when I started seeing this, this got me really, really excited. You can build out a team of agents to help you with different things. Okay, so
just to drill in on that for a second, right? Because this is important. You're saying workflow is composed of agents and tools. So you built out this workflow to do stuff, and now you're defining multiple agents within the workflow, and the agents can call other agents. So your agent that says, oh, I want to go analyze these stories, right, is calling other agents to get this stuff done.
Correct. Yes. So here, the main agent Alfred would call this workflow to analyze the Hacker News. And then in one of these nodes in this Hacker News workflow, it's going to call this news analyst agent that has specific instructions. Isn't that bonkers?
Okay, this is cool. Very cool.
Isn't that so cool? So again, what's important about this is that when you're building agentic systems and workflows, you always have to kind of think about how much predictability do you want? How much predictability do you need? And what I love about this agentic system is that you have all of these components, workflows, tools, and agents. These are primitives, but you can use these as Lego blocks to either toggle up the predictability or toggle it down, and to introduce a whole bunch of different tools and capabilities. And so it opens up so many possibilities to do so many interesting things, but then also, be comfortable that your agent is going to do the thing that you expect it to do. And so that's really what's got me really excited about this new capability.
Okay, super interesting. So I guess for those just joining us, because we've been chatting for a little bit, this is Agent 3 kind of live stream. We're talking with Manny, who's built some amazing things on Replit. We're walking through a workflow using Mastra, the framework, in Replit's new agents and automations functionality to basically get research papers, summarize them, and then send you a weekly email. Very cool stuff. So you can see the workflow here. And so what Manny's talking about actually is how he approaches building with these tools, which I find very interesting. So I'd like to understand more about what you just described, which is like thinking about this like building blocks and thinking about like the components of the application and how they fit together. And then what you said about kind of dialing up or down the predictability or like the reliability. Would love to know more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You notice that I have two builds here. One is a workflow, one is an agent. And the workflow is pretty straightforward. I don't need a ton of AI here. I just wanted to follow a couple of discrete steps, and I want to infuse AI at certain parts of the nodes. And in particular, it's this summarized paper step. And so I think, for a workflow where you just need to interject AI at key points, super, super helpful to do that. And also, like, this is going to give me the same output again and again. Super, super helpful. And then with the agent, if I need it to, be able to have some more understanding and have it to have a little bit more autonomy in terms of building different or pulling in different workflows and tools, okay, that's when I'm going to go with an agent. And where the predictability part comes in is that, say you have like an you have like a sort of like an HR agent or agentic service that you want to make available. Well, you might have a number of questions that are somewhat general there. And so you might have like, a particular way that each question needs to be answered. And you might want to be very prescriptive about that. And so you might want to build a particular workflow to do that and say like, hey, always look at this content and then always output this. And the other cool thing about these workflows is that it also allows you to branch into different logic paths. So you can say like, if this is related to this, go here. If related to that, go here. If you don't have a good answer, go and ping somebody, bring a human in the loop and get some more expertise or what have you. And so I think like as you're testing, have these agentic workflows and systems, and you're testing different use cases, and you're finding that like, oh, I have too much variability when somebody asks this particular question or wants this particular thing, then okay, now I need to like think about how I can streamline that more into a workflow. The other part where this might be helpful is in business processes. Say like you have a customer service agent, and they, a customer wants to reset their password and get a new ID card or something like that. Well, that's a business process that has very tight logic and steps that need to happen. And so you don't want an agent to be able to do that because your agent might hallucinate or might not give you the intended output. You might want to structure that in a very tight workflow that's going to guarantee the output and the outcome, and that's going to complete all the steps that you want for that particular process.
That's super interesting. Kind of what you're talking about, decoupling business logic and in critical business processes from things that AI can do versus what AI doesn't do, it sounds like.
Right.
Very cool. And so when we think about building with AI and building these like complex problems, I think it's actually important to think about like how we break these things down. So you're talking about like this research summarization tool, which I really love this kind of automation. How did you think about the different steps that you needed to take, when to use AI, when not to use AI in that specific application, and then how you built out sort of that logic?
This is where Replit Agent made it super easy. So I pretty much started with a prompt of what I wanted and say like, hey, like I want you to do this top 25, and I want you to summarize it in this particular casual way. And Replit vibe coded this and built it out for me. And then once I saw the particular nodes, I didn't do much. I wanted it to be a little bit more casual. I wanted the formatting to be a little bit crisper. But aside from that, I'm just sort of, I'm thinking about like the end result that I want. And then I'm thinking about whether or not it needs to be a workflow slash automation. So it's a workflow in the Master AI framework. It's an automation that here in the Replit framework, and then I'm kind of thinking about what the end goal is, and then I'm having Replit build it out, vibe code it, and then I'm going into the development playground to make sure that everything is working, and to try to understand a little bit more about what's going on under the hood. But I think this is sort of one of the cool things about building automations in this way, which is that because it's all code based, a coding agent like Replit Agent can help me build this out. Like I've done a lot of this automation, like on other platforms, and all of it is GUI based. So you start with this node graph system, and while I think it's helpful to start off with automations using a node and like connecting type of framework, GUI kind of thing, it kind of slows you down in the world of and vibe coding. And so the fact that this is all code based and that I could tell Agent 3 like, hey, this is the outcome that I want. I might suggest a workflow and agent, but then have Agent 3 go out and build that for me. It's a really a big deal. It's super empowering.
So a lot of interesting things that you touched on there. First, thinking about like how you decompose the logic to actually build the application, and then what I noticed was that you use the master playground to go in and debug individual steps. So you'd say like, "Oh, is this thing working? Like, is this part of the flow working?" Or to look through the logs and say like, "What did I get back from this email summarization?" Which I found very interesting. So yeah, digging into those individual steps, and then the crazy part is that this is just code. And the cool thing about code is that you can do anything in code, right? You can solve any logic. And so in that sense, it's a lot more flexible and a lot less limiting than a GUI based, kind of drag and drop workflow automation tool. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think two things. One is you can move faster. So if I have like a pretty complex, gnarly automation that has multiple steps, that needs to pull in different agents, different sources, I can just describe that and have Agent 3 go hack on that. um and two, it just opens up just more different capabilities that I can build now, because if you have to kind of manually drag and drop different nodes and connect them, like you have to go and research what each one of the nodes is going to do, and figure that out, and then try to do that in the GUI. And then I think three is that if you get any type of more complicated automation in some of those sort of traditional GUI automation platforms, it just looks gnarly. Like it's just like so hard to comprehend, like figure out what's going on. There's so many nodes all over the place. It's kind of hard to kind of see what's happening. And the fact that this is all code based is kind of in this neat kind of workflows and agents type of framework. Yeah, it's super helpful. Um, I also really love the fact that I can go in here and chat with the agent and see what's going on underneath the hood. So like I can see all of the different parameters here. I can see what tools it's calling. I can see what it's doing, and just get a better sense of what's happening. And I think for me that's super important, because before I push anything to a customer or into production, like it's good, it's great for Agent 3 to vibe code the automation or agent for me, but I feel like I really need to understand what's happening, to make sure that I'm going to get the expected outcome when it goes live, it goes in front of a customer. And to have all of this visibility, all of this visibility, super super important.
Yeah, I think that you're getting at a really important point, which is that even though we're relying on AI to build the apps for us, like that's what vibe coding is, that's what it means to use an agent, we still have to understand what's happening in our application, right? And so like just because an app gets the expected outcome, we have to verify number one that it's doing it the way we expect and that it's not like some sort of hallucinated or like mocked output. But then number two, that it's happening in a secure way, especially if we're doing that for someone or charging someone for a service. So can you talk a little bit about that, Manny? How you think about those things and maybe how you ensure that the output is what you'd expect?
Yes. So two things is, one is I spend a lot of time testing it just kind of with vibes. And then two is I'm trying to go into each one of the nodes and steps and see what's happening. So in the tool, I want to understand specifically what's getting called into this tool, what's the expected outcome. And then in the workflows, I'm also going into these workflows, and I want to understand, like, okay, for this previous run, what was the input, drive that, and what was the output, and really kind of understand that, and then just get familiar with these runs. Um, and so like after each attempt, like I want to go into these logs and traces and try to understand and see what's happening. The next step for me is to get much more structured around this, and to have a robust system that evaluates the outputs from all of these conversations and steps and runs it through a systematic process or metric for at least for me to kind of get reporting on and to flag issues when they come up. And so I'm still digging into this, but I know that Mastra has some really good support around this. So if you hover around here, you see there's things like scores. There's like an evaluator, I think. I think it was evaluating. It was evaluated before. Now they have it as scores, and I have to dig into this a little bit more. But this makes it easier to have a systematic evaluation process for your agentic workflows and your agents, which I think they're going to be critical. And so like that's one of the things that I'll be doing is, before I push something like this to production into a customer, I'm going to really fully understand the evaluation process and have that set up so that I get ahead of things before before they do any harm or have any bad outcomes. And then also when things don't go right for a customer, you want to be able to quickly go and diagnose the problem. Like, okay, like this was not what the customer expected. Where was it? Is it the prompt? Is it one of the nodes? Is it one of the tools? Is an API down? Like there's just so many things that could have gone wrong. And so having that set up is going to make it easier for you to kind of quickly debug that and fix things.
Absolutely. So, right, what you're talking about is it's kind of like principles of software development, right? Which is like debugging. You said you're understanding your inputs and then the outputs for a given input, which is really important. And the way you're doing that is by leveraging the tools that you have. So Mastra, Replit, the dashboard here, to understand when something goes in, what comes out. And that's actually like a bigger problem in like engineering and AI engineering, right? Which is, what they call evals or what they call like some of these traces and these logs. So evals is evaluating the output that AI gives us. Tracing and logs are kind of like what you see here. And so you're saying you're using these things to make sure that what you're receiving what you'd expect. And down the line, if something breaks, that means you don't have to spend hours trying to figure out what's going wrong. And these are principles of software engineering, but they're actually just logic, right? Like, like if your lamp broke, why is your lamp not turning on? Well, it could be not plugged in. The light bulb could be out, right? Like there are a bunch of reasons and you go through them one by one. What you're saying here is like, oh, well, maybe my paper doesn't work. You have the steps here to debug. You have all of the data to go through and say, does this thing align with my logical explanation? So this is really outstanding. I love this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all new to vibe coding agentic workflows. At least I am, and vibe coding agents. And so I want to take action and put out these agents and have them work for me and work for customers and users. But then I also like to help me sleep a little bit better at night. I feel like I need like a really good evaluation framework to be constantly monitoring what these agents are doing. So like because we're so new in the cycle, I think you just have to put extra emphasis and care on that, and then just make sure like you at least have some like reporting that's coming in. I think it's just gonna help you sleep better at night, quite frankly.
Love it. And more than that, it's a best practice and you're doing things the right way. So, all really great stuff. I guess now, Manny, do you have anything else to share? Otherwise, I want to talk about like some best practices and what you've learned. It seems like you have some takeaways here.
Yeah, no, some of the we already touched on some of these, but just some key takeaways that have come to mind. Again, what's awesome about this is that this was all vibe coded 100%. And so that's just the fact that you can spin up this workflow and agent. It's only been a week since this feature has been out, and it's all vibe coded. To me, that just kind of I just get really excited about this. Two is the control around the predictability of the workflows. So this is, again, is a big deal. Like what is your error rate on these workflows? Where can you have it be a little bit more open, more chatty? Where do you want it to be super tight? And so this agentic framework allows you to do that. And then three is just getting a good night's sleep when this agent is out there doing work or for you or for your users around the traces and the ability to debug and to look into each one of the different nodes and these tools. Super helpful. I think this is such a key part of this overall feature. But that said, I'm super excited about this new build type in Replit. I hope that comes across, and I'm super eager to get in touch with anybody else that's building agents and automations on Replit. So definitely reach out to me. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on X. So DM me. Would love to hear about what you're building.
Yeah, second that, definitely reach out to Manny. He does great stuff and get involved there. I guess more of like maybe a larger point with some of the changes with Agent 3. Are there any things that you've seen, Manny, that like have worked better or things that you've noticed building recently that you'd like to share with the community?
A couple of things. One, I really love the fact when architect gets called into a conversation. So, I'm seeing progress with the Replit 3 and kind of it's building things out. And then the fact that it's calling out to like either a more higher powered model or like a model with a different role and comes in and oftentimes steers the chat in the right direction. So I really love that the ability to see that happen because I'm also building my own agents, and the fact that it's calling other agents, I can kind of try to incorporate that pattern and say like, how might I introduce that into my agentic workflow? So now, as you can see, I have workflows that are calling other agents, and so part of that comes from me seeing Replit 3, Agent 3 do that as well. Like, oh, now you can call sub agents. Okay, that's a great idea. Let me incorporate that. And then no, I really love the extended thinking or extended thinking that's almost like by default because it is more autonomous. I'm right now. I'm like putting in one prompt, but then in the queue I have 2 or 3, 4 more prompts. Some of those are oftentimes research based. So I say like, I can trigger to the planning mode and say like, okay, after you're done with this main build, let me check it out. But in the meantime, I want you to also give me some research on these key components of the application, and then have that ready for me when I'm done and I come back from lunch. And so that autonomy to kind of to trust Replit or rather Agent 3 to build out something, but then also the ability to queue up different questions that I have as I'm trying to understand the code base, as I'm trying to understand what I'm building, super, super handy. So those are some of the things that I really liked about the new release.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. There's a lot of stuff there. So I'm gonna share my screen. Agent 3. What do you say is going on? We actually are using a multi-agent architecture. So there's like, maybe an orchestrator. If our AI team is watching, they're gonna hate me because I'm probably using the wrong terms. So there's like an orchestrator agent, right? And then there are sub agents, right? Oh, Manny even said it's architect. Architect. T I'm live. I can't spell. It's all right. So then we have like other sub agents that are doing stuff. So maybe like writing code. Maybe we have an agent that's testing code. Maybe we have an agent, right, that's like doing something, checking security. So you might see this while you're building, right? What you might see is that our architect is going to call these different agents and have them do stuff. That's pretty cool. That's a multi-agent architecture. Multi-agent architecture. You can read some of this from, like Anthropic has written some great stuff about multi-agents. There's a lot of writing out there at this point. What you're saying is that what you've seen is because, like Replit Agent does these things. So this is like Replit Agent. You can build your own multi-agents with Mastra now. So you can use Replit Agent, which is an agent, to create your own multi-agent. So maybe you have like your email, you have an architect in your email agent, and that architect is directing like a research agent, sort of a composition agent, and then like maybe we'll duplicate this, maybe like a grammar police agent or something that's like checking everything. And so you can have this architect that like calls these sub agents and does really cool stuff with them. So multi-agent architecture is really interesting stuff. Best practice in building with AI and something that's kind of new to Replit.
Right. So like here you might have like a router agent. So you have like 10 emails in your inbox. Some of them have to be routed to certain people. Okay, like you just have an agent that that checks that out and sends it to the appropriate place. And what I like about this is the fact that you can get very tight on your prompts, your system prompts, your tools, and your workflow for each particular agent. So it just kind of helps kind of narrow things down, because if you're building one massive agent with one massive prompt, it's really hard to keep the agentic experience like as tight as you want it to be. And it's also hard to debug. And so if I have a router agent, okay, I know how to test it, right? So like router agent, you got these 10 emails. Now I expect you to route 3 of them to HR and 2 of them to marketing, and then not do anything else with the rest. That's my expectation. Now I can spend a lot of time just on router agent, optimizing the system prompt, optimizing the tooling, optimizing the workflows, and just get really tight. And I know that like it's 100%, a router agent is always going to do the job that it's going to do. And then I can move on to the next agent and build that out. And then I can move on to the overall orchestrator. And so it's a great way to break down these complicated overall agentic experiences, and help you build them out and debug each one of them.
That's awesome. I love that. And I even saw something come in, and what one of our sort of users was saying is like, the more you can define your idea and architecture or architecture, sorry, tough word for me today. The closer agent can get with like less help, basically less help. And so, Manny, what you're describing, right, is like, say you want to build an agent, you have a goal, which is maybe like send a research summary summary via email. And then, your outcome is, whoa, a little moving the screen there. Your outcome is your research digest. The more we can connect like our idea with the implementation, right? So like in the middle, we have like an implementation. The more specific we can be here, whether that's with our multi-agent architectures, with how this gets done, with the context that we give, that we give agent, the more we can save time and we can save resources, right? So if you're looking for ways to think about building, the more you can like understand how these things work and then break your ideas down, the faster we'll be able to get to the desired outcome, and ideally like save time, save money, right? Agent is going to make these changes, it's going to run autonomously, but if we can say, hey, here's the structure, actually here's my multi-agent architecture, right? Like these are the things I want happening. These are the tools I want to give to this agent. This is the system prompt I want in this agent. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to like test each of these individually. The more you can be opinionated, the more you can kind of come up with this architecture and then provide really robust instructions to agent about what you're trying to build, the faster you're going to be able to get to the desired outcome. That's at least what I've seen when I've been building with agent.
That's right. And the more confidence you're going to have that you're going to get the same output again and again. So again, the problem with LLM based systems is that they're probabilistic and they might hallucinate. And so the antidote to that is to be really tight on your system prompt, to be really tight on your tools. And so the fact that you can break it down in this narrow part just kind of gives you that confidence that it's most of the time, at least as to a high degree of confidence, is always going to give you the thing that you want.
Yeah, I love that, right? And what this multi-agent architecture does is it allows you, to your point, to be specific, right? So we're delegating to these agents, and like you said, you're very tight on the individual prompt and tools that are going into these individual agents. And so essentially, we're doing a few things. So like first, we're creating a better developer experience, because this is easier to debug on many, what Manny's saying, right? Is like if our agent doesn't route emails properly, or if our app doesn't route emails properly, it's the fault of the router agent, right? So as a developer now, I understand how to debug things easier, right? And what you're doing that through creating faster iteration cycles, which is like feedback loops. Like you as a developer, as a vibe coder, can say this thing doesn't work, I need to fix it. We're creating specialized subsystems that are going to work better, that are going to be more accurate and deliver like what we're after a higher percentage of the time because we have these specialized tools. And so it's kind of like, you know, this is software development, right? This is, this is building software. But with Replit, with these new tools, we can do that with natural language rather than something else. So yeah, I think that's spot on. And I really love where this conversation is going. Now I know we've been recording for a while. Maybe if there are any questions or any like topics we could address, Francisco, do you have anything chat through here?
Yeah, there's a great question, kind of great conversation happening with Just a Duck and Hezmat here. And the question is, does it help to feed the full design, like sprint backlog and some code with specific features for a better prompt? Or like, what is the balance between like too much detail, not enough detail, like somewhere in between?
Do you have thoughts there, Manny?
My preference is to be as detailed as possible with your prompt, and then make it less or more general as needed. Because again, especially as I think of these as building blocks, and I want one agent to do a particular job. I want one node in a workflow to do a particular job, and so I want to be as detailed as possible in that prompt. And then I'll test it, and if I'm getting like something that's a little not desired, okay, then I know I have to either change that prompt a little bit, make it a little bit more general, give it more detail, give it more information. But my general preference is always to be as detailed as possible. Start there, be super specific about what you want, and then like if you have to, then like try to like it's probably actually like typically you have to add more detail, I find. So yeah, I think that would be my default, is like try to be as detailed as possible and try to like narrow it down as much as you can.
I agree with that. Something I see developers do a lot, or vibe coders rather, is they'll like paste in irrelevant context though. So my caveat here is make sure that what you're sending is accurate and works with Replit and makes sense. Like if you were going to send it to a junior developer, would they be able to implement it? Because sometimes what I see is people go to ChatGPT or Claude and say like generate this giant PRD or like this giant document, and not all of the information in that document is A, relevant, or B, like useful for our LLM. And then that's bad context that's going into the model. So when we think about, is this useful? Is this concise? Is this, if I gave these instructions to a junior developer, would it implement it? I say give as much relevant, concise information to agent as possible. That would be my takeaway.
Fair. I think I think I was thinking about it in the context of the different prompts in the in the workflow that I'm building. But yes, like yeah, absolutely. When you're first asking agent to build out a new automation or agent, I like to be concise and tight, and I also just like to focus on the end outcome of what I want and let agent make the decisions on the technical part and what to build out. That's one thing that I do find with folks, is that sometimes they're overly opinionated on the tech stack to Agent 3. My view is that Agent 3 is a much better technical expert than I am. I just want to tell it what I want, what I need, and I'm going to let Agent 3 go build that out.
And a follow-up question on design, and I know this comes up a lot. I think this came up in our previous live stream as well. Is how do you like encourage it for like a better design, or how can you prompt towards something that like is a little bit more unique?
What do you think, Manny?
Okay, so I haven't had too much experience building out design in Agent 3 just yet. I'm eager to do that. But with Agent 2, what I was doing is I was actually starting my design process in with ChatGPT GPT-5. And I just what I found is sort of it was really helpful. Like I think GPT-5 has got really good design, really good UI, and kind of just going back and forth with GPT-5 and getting to the end outcome that I was looking for, and at least getting some sense of what it resembled, and having sort of a sort of either like code for that, either TypeScript or JavaScript, that I can pull into Replit and say like, okay, Replit, like here's the UI that I really like, the design that I really like. Now build out the application for this particular design. So that's sort of what I found to be helpful. Just I quickly iterate on the design, kind of go back and forth. I think I mentioned it to the Replit team. It would be cool to have a design mode where I can just go in and just like spend like an hour just thinking about the UI and what I want. Okay, now go and build out the full backend and make it usable. But that's what's worked for me.
Very cool. And then on our end, right, I'll share my screen. We'll talk through a couple things, and I think we have something that's kind of close to what you're asking for, Manny. Actually, that we're either we just rolled out or is continually being improved. So, a couple things here. Now we have themes, so you can manage your themes. And if I go to my theme manager, I can actually change like typography settings. So I can make this like maybe look a little bit better. We can make it like look exactly how we want it. We can change colors of like text and things like that here. And we can toggle between like different pre-designed components. And so then when we're building with Agent, we can specify, hey, I actually want this kind of nomad theme. So now I'm going to get this. And so the second thing is that if I say like, hey, build me a to-do list app, you'll be able to select in the plan mode. You'll be able to select either design first or a full working app. So this is something we're continuously improving. But to kind of Manny's point, and this will just take a couple seconds to come up here. This would be a way to iterate on the design before we go into like building the actual backend functionality. So basically, we're going to build the front end, and then we're going to dive into building the backend. So what you'll see here from Agent in just a second is that it'll say, do you want to build the backend? Do you want to build the front end? And then we can start, right? So start with a design, start designing. And now Agent's going to build the front end for my to-do list and work on the design. And then we can go into building the backend as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like I've seen that pop up on a couple of my builds, but not all the time. So I think it's still rolling out. But yeah, I think that would be super helpful because yeah, just because you can quickly iterate. Like instead of 20 minutes for a full build, 5 minutes for the front end, and just kind of go back and forth and just talking with Agent and fixing things. Like okay, now go out and build the entire application. I think this is gonna be super helpful.
Outstanding. That's great. I mean, we might have time for like one or more quick questions, Francisco, and then we'll probably wrap it up since we've been at it for nearly an hour here.
Yeah, no, I think those were the main ones. I think there was a lot of design, just kind of questions and things there. I will say I saw a lot of feedback coming in. I just want to say that we're actively kind of building right now and just like iterating on a lot of different things that came out last week. So a lot of the changes, we are hearing your feedback. There's like a mega thread on Reddit that we're actively working with on the mods, and same with Discourse too. So expect a lot more kind of like improvement of life coming out very, very soon with just a general tool. But other than that, Matt, I don't see any other bigger questions. There's a lot on prompting, design, and I think we covered quite a bit of that.
Outstanding. So yeah, in my future videos, we'll keep digging into design and prompting. We'll keep digging into like how you can make the best apps possible. Yeah. And Manny, anything else to add?
I'm just super pumped about agents and automations. Like I think this is like opening up like so many new possibilities and things to build, and they're like functional and helpful. Like my assistant, like that's gonna go live for me next week, and I'm gonna add more tools and more capabilities. That automation that I showed you, like I've got one for Hacker News, I've got one for Archive. There's just so much you can do with it. So like I just love the fact that like you can get value from those really really fast. So just pumped for that. And I know how fast the Replit team ships. So I'm like just like super excited to see how you improve that functionality.
Outstanding. Well, personally, also very excited to see what's coming next. On another note, thank you so much for joining us, Manny. Really great to see what you've been building. Thanks for all the tips, all the tricks. It's been a really great conversation. So always great to see what the community's building. From my end, we wouldn't be anything without the community, and Francisco's doing a great job of developing that. So thank you all. I'm Matt. I'm here with Francisco, and Manny. Thank you all for joining our live stream. We'll catch you next time.
Wait, everyone. Have a good one.